Hi guys, welcome back. Me and Laurie are here again. Okay, I'm just going to chat. I have a couple of questions on hamstrings and psoas, but I want to talk firstly about just the importance of like structure in your training. So we just had like one client who's doing the training, and she was saying she really struggles with the down week, and I actually thought was she like because she's so wrecked, but she says like she always keeps going. She struggles to take, say, that down week every fourth week. And it's like, I'm just going to share my screen here because I just put it up. It's like there's this thing called the general adaptation syndrome, which essentially is like when you train, you fatigue the body. Okay. And um, once the training's finished, then we have a recovery. Like that's where you go to Laurie or whoever to make sure your nutrition's on point, your sleep's on point. Um, like you can do your foam rolling, your other things. And basically, what happens is the body loves what we call homeostasis, which is that feeling the same. It doesn't like being stressed. So what it will do then is it will change your physiology essentially so that the level of stress that you give it, it can kind of handle that easier. That's why you'll have like DOMS or delayed onset muscle soreness if you first go to the gym. But if you do the same weights, you won't get DOMS anymore. Your body will have adapted its resources to be able to deal with that stress, and hence you get stronger. Same if you're really out of breath, if you're struggling, your body will adapt, for the first kind of 8 to 12 weeks, it's neurological adaptations generally. And then after that, it's like physiological where, your heart gets a little bit bigger or your lungs are able to, transport oxygen in blood better and all those fun things. Right. But you do have to remember that, and then that's that super compensation. If we don't train again, that's why the consistency is so important. We'll just go back to kind of our baseline fitness that we were. But we have to remember that, like, on this, there is a chance that if we go too hard, we don't kind of come back up to the level we're at before. So, oh my God, and I actually, wait there. I'm just going to pause for a second because I have a better diagram, and I'm just going to pause recording. Now we're straight back, lads. That wasn't 5 minutes of me just meandering aimlessly with Laurie, just keep me company. So I'm just going to share my screen again. And that worked better now that I was able to find that pause. So like we said, right, we have our stress, we get recovery, then we get the compensation again, which allows, like, over time, this graph of gradually getting fitter. But you have to remember, right, when you do your training, you're actually less, it's in the recovery that you get fitter. And I know that sounds simple, but that's the problem. If you do overdo it, what can happen is if we get the fatigue, and I have a better slide again, will I bother getting it? Um, Laurie, how are you for time? I might just get it for the
No,
sake of
no,
this.
I'm fine. I'm
Even
just
if people aren't
yeah,
watching this live, look, let's
yeah,
do it.
sure.
Guys, you have no idea what's going on in the background here, but I'm gonna pause. Okay, we're back, guys. That's 2 seconds for you, but like a lot of time has passed for us. So it's if you ever seen that Interstellar movie, it's basically what's happened there. Okay, so I just said I'd show these to Laurie very quick. We might just do this another day, but like what overtraining is, what are the areas that can cause overtraining? Because it's that thing we did talk about before, Laurie, like where you can have like parasympathetic and sympathetic overtraining, and then we'll talk about the recovery. Okay, so here we go. This was what all the thing I was gonna I'm gonna hide presenter view. Um, was it worth it? Let's see. Was it worth changing? If you're watching this online, give a comment. Okay, so what can happen is we are at our base fitness level. So we come down. So that's our session one. If we recover correctly, like we talked about, and we then we can go. But if we start the next session under recovered, what can happen is we get this overtraining effect. So session two, say, like now this, and what the person was, we can think of this in like weeks as well. So we might have it that for the first 3 weeks, and in my programs we do it, in the third week, I used to, especially when I was starting, if you're new to a plan, the first, like the time I was kind of training with one of my best coaches, Thomas Chamley, the last session or workout of the third week, we were always like, we were crashing on it. Like we never hit the right times because we just had that cumulative fatigue of the 3 weeks. So then we needed a down week to get this. So to get the recovery, and then by the like the week off, by the next week we're fitter again, and then we can kind of progress into it. However, you need to take those down weeks. They're there for a reason, to absorb that training, to allow these recoveries. Because say if this is 3 weeks, but you get antsy and you do session 2, then you come again and you start here. Well, we get this downward progression on our fitness level. I don't know if that was worth it, but that was the the interactive slide. That took me a good while to do back in the day. But so that was before Canva or anything like that. But so I was always proud of that. But that's what we need. We need that 4th week. So I don't want you to think of that 4th week as you need to keep busy. Maybe just have something else on. Maybe double up on the Pilates you're doing, double up on the recovery. So if it is like I like to do my sessions, can you do a foam rolling session more? Can you do stuff like that? Even if it's like, maybe can you get a massage or something to down regulate the system? Because we will have these overreaching things where we are basing in like inadequate recovery in the 3 weeks, but knowing that with a rest that we can kind of, we'll get what we call that super compensation effect again. Yeah, so that was just what I wanted to show. Probably wasn't worth it now that I show that, but anyway, that's just make sure that you are I would just factor that in. That's fine for anyone listening to the podcast. It's only me and Laurie knows what I'm like, so that's the least okay. I feel like that slide wasn't worth it at all.
Oh, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's good to reiterate that whole bit about recovery, because I know I've been bad for that. And
In
what's
what way
always,
have you been bad, Laurie?
well, what always forces me into recovery time is an injury,
Yeah,
because I'm always feeling like if I'm not driving forward or doing more, or trying to do it faster, then I'm not progressing, right? And it took multiple, injuries before I kind of really had it drilled home to me that trying to do more than you're being asked to do is not a good idea. And
yes, yeah,
and that really the benefit comes from the resting you're getting afterwards. So if you're not giving yourself the right amount of rest, you're just digging yourself into a hole. And that's what I think I had been doing. Because
yeah. And I
I do
think,
my intervals too fast. I would, I'm supposed to keep my
yes,
long runs easy, or my, easy runs easy. And I don't think I was always doing them easy enough. Maybe I didn't understand how easy was supposed to be.
yeah,
It's but it would always just come up that I would start feeling fatigued. And I'm kind of a tech fan, right? So I've got, the Oura ring and all these things that
yes.
sort of showing my HRV was starting to decline, and my resting heart rate would go up, and then I'd get an injury.
Has the Oura helped you in terms of like recognizing it's like, okay, I'm on a limit here, I should take my down week?
Yeah, between the Oura and the Garmin, they both show me
Yeah,
similar stuff. It's kind of
you need
I
you
got it
need
all.
to
It's like rest.
you got a guy who like knocks on your door every 3 weeks, like, stop,
Yeah,
stop.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Laurie. Like, I always find like there's the other thing that hit me, what you were saying there was, well, there's a few really good points. The other thing is, in addition to the down week, well, two things. As I said, trying too hard on the reps. Like, I do find that people are trying, and then because sometimes you can overly try, and then because you're digging yourself into a hole, you've gone into like an anaerobic zone.
Mhm.
So you're not even training the appropriate system anymore. So you think like, I'm really trying hard, I'm pushing it, but it's like you would be better under here, going at the pace, going at the heart rate, to increase the increase your system essentially, which you're trying to train, rather than going like super fast, especially if it's in like an aerobic type session. The last thing I was going to say there, and it'll be same to the person, is I find with more, I don't know what's a, like, I always feel derogatory when I say the words, like we're elite runners and the novice or the sub elite,
There you are. I saw
the
your last race.
peasants. Yeah. But what I found was like what we do is like your year is structured. I feel there's also a kind of thing where people, it's just you're always on. It's always kind of in competition phase, and there isn't, especially if you're doing shorter events. I feel like the marathon and stuff is probably, it's probably the one benefit of it is it gives people like, well, I'll have a downtime after that and I have this build phase. But like people need to include that. Like if you can, as I said, every fourth week be a down week, and then have it that like after 8 months, say, you have a down month, or like,
Yeah.
so we kind of nearly go from like September to July, and then August will always be like that easy month where can you take 10 days off, like just cycle or swim, do yoga, try maybe I'm doing the gym a bit more. But I always find if you can take your downtime before an injury or illness is doing it, you come back super strong. Like, so you'll take like say a week or 10 days completely kind of off, do another activity. Then you might have like every second day running for another like say 10 days. So you've had 20 days of this recovery, and then you can start looking at a build phase of maybe a month where it's more building back up your running. So that would be say month 9, and then month 10 is that building, and then month 11 you're like nearly back into a new calendar year of some kind of like, okay, let's now take 2 months to hit a 5K or take 3 months to hit a 5K. Because I had a couple of people where they'd finished their sessions, which was good, and then I was like, oh, do you want to get put onto a new program, like, for another 5K? And they're like, yeah, like it's like, oh yeah, I've only been doing easy jogging after finishing the last 5K program. And they're like, yeah, let's do it for like say 5 weeks. I'm like, no, that's too short. Like, let's, if it's only something you're doing, let's like do it in 3 months. So it allows us to have these kind of periods. And then we can go into like a 5K block of races. That's no problem then. That we can have this race, stay kind of sharp, another race in like 2 or 3 weeks, another race in 2 or 3 weeks, and then leave it again for like, then take a little bit of a downtime, then build. And that's what elite runners do. They have this kind of up and down natural flows that like sub elites don't think about. They don't think like, I'll go into this phase. They don't go into like a build kind of specific phase, racing phase, recovery, build, specific, racing, recovery. And that's, having that allows you to, it just keeps you, as you said, healthier, rather than this kind of like one doing the sessions a bit harder, not taking the recovery that you're that's needed. And then also it's like, well, I'm kind of racing the whole time, or there's never like this is the time I'm getting ready for. It's like there's a race on in 5 weeks, grand. There's another race on in 6 weeks after that, grand. There's another thing and this, and then oh boom, I've got an injury because I've never really taken a
Yeah, I mean, I think for
difference.
me, part of the, like, I don't do a lot of formal races, but I think there was this part of me that had this goal, a 5K goal time that I wanted to do. And because when you're getting older, you get slower. And I guess I was racing against the clock in the sense that, well, I better try to get this goal like soon.
Yeah. I won't be able to get it in 3-4 years, like, or 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then, I think I've just got to realize I need more recovery time maybe than the average person,
Yeah, exactly.
And
then I think you got to know yourself as well. Like I had a physio patient, and I just remember him. Look, he was a bit overweight, like God love him, but like, and he was like, he was like, yeah, I'm just running now, and then I have a rest day run. So he's doing like 3 days a week, and he's like, look, and he's like, looks at me deadly serious, and he's like, just don't want to make sure I'm overtraining. And I was like, dude, don't worry about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, so what I need, like, sometimes you need to know I'm actually on the lazy side of things. So I will need to kick up the ass. Like I'll always, I'll like, if I'm given a rep range or at times, I'll always be conservative. Like I'll be like, look, that's fine.
yeah.
That's enough. Whereas other people, I won't say her name. She was like a ridiculously good runner though. The only thing is that hard as well because the obsessive people, there's a survivorship bias. You know, sometimes they talk about companies that made it and they do this. It's like, yeah, but you're talking to the one company that I work for, and you kind of ignore because you don't know them, the 80 that didn't. And it's the same with athletes. You hear the stories of, oh, they did all that. It's like, I can show you a scrap heap of people who
Yeah.
never, and like, but this girl, like she had to be told like not to have, like, you cannot run on this day. And she'd be so funny. Like, women are a little bit more like that, but she'd be so funny. She's like, do you need any milk? You'd be like, you know, it's like, I'm going to the shops. And she'd literally pick a shop, like, I'm not joking, like 10 miles to be a shop like 500 meters away. And you'd see her power walking, like, I'm just going to the shops. Like, oh, Jesus. You know, so it's like, you've got to like just chill out for this day. So it can be hard for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny, like, and then she trained herself for a while as well. She went absolutely off the rails. She was training 4 times a day at one stage, which is,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Hope she was eating enough.
6, 10, 6, 10, I think 4, and then 7.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good going in them. Now,
It
not
was
all
only,
runs
only
will be
one
like,
day I do 2 things.
yeah, well, I used to do 2 things. It's 2 is not bad, you know.
Yeah.
You had a good question there, Laurie. Do you want to say it again? And then
Well,
I'm
what
gonna
was
put,
it? Can you
yeah,
remind
so
me?
yeah, I said, you forgot after the 10 minutes of watching a man go through. I basically gave Laurie a tutorial of how to attach files to a Gmail and send it. She's like, okay, thought this was meant to be on running and recovery, not like how to do basic Microsoft and Google functions. So the question she had, right, is, it is really warm here in Ireland. It's really warm in Canada.
Yeah.
And with the heat, your heart rates will be going up on your runs. It's the same if you go to altitude. It's like, basically what happens with the heat is, because, and I've talked about that before, it's that dew point, because it's hotter, the blood that would normally be going to the muscles has to go to your skin to allow the heat to evaporate, to keep you cooler. So you're less efficient, say, at the same pace. Yeah, just because instead of everything going to the muscles to allow them to move faster, proportionally some of your resources have to go to the skin to cool you down. So she was saying, do you go up, you know, the 5, or can you let it go up like a 5 or 10 beats, not going crazy, you know, not like, we're not talking about if you normally run at 130 and now you're running at 160, but are you allowed to like have those extra 5 or 10 beats because you know it's the heat? There's 2 schools of thought, because this is big when you go to altitude training. So altitude training, there's less oxygen molecules in the air. So when you take a breath in, let's just use round figures. Say if you were normally, if I take a breath in, that's me breathing in for anyone listening. There's extra audio sound effects now, which we've added. Right. And then, so say normally at sea level, when you take that breath in, that was that again, you get 100 oxygen molecules. Now, when you take a breath in at altitude, you only have 75 oxygen molecules, because they're more spread out, because the air is thinner. So there's less, they can move out. It's not as condensed, so they can move out further. So when you're breathing, even though you breathe the same rate, the amount of oxygen in the air is less. So you're having to like run with less oxygen essentially. And then that's why they do it. You do it for 3 weeks, and you've got used to less oxygen in the air. And then because of that, your body, coming back to that homeostasis thing, it's like, look, I'm being overstressed. So it will start producing EPO naturally in your body. People do that. That's why they take EPO. And then the EPO produces more red blood cells. So you have more red blood cells in your body to allow you to use more of that 75% than you normally would have. And then you go back to sea level. Now you're back to 100 particles of oxygen with every breath, but now you have way more red blood cells. So that's how they think that works. And a lot of runners will go to altitude for that reason. Now, at altitude though, to avoid overtraining, there's kind of a couple of different ways that you can tackle altitude, because obviously you're getting like you running at the same pace is going to be a lot harder. So your heart rate's going to be up, just like in the heat. The heart rate's up because there's less blood, there's less oxygen in blood. When you're hot, there's less blood physically going to the muscles, so there's less oxygen physically going to the muscles. So there's two ways that you can do it. The first and most popular school of thought is to run slower. Okay, so this is the most popular, to not let the heart rate go up above. So to run slower. The idea being, well, you are still getting the same, even though you're going slower, you're still getting the same aerobic benefit on a slower pace. Okay, and then you might, what they would do on sessions, so on workouts for heat or workouts for altitude, they'll try to keep the same pace, but they'll give double, it's 1.5 times your recovery. So say if you were doing reps and it's normally 60 seconds recovery, they'll give 1 minute 30 recovery. If you normally took a minute 30, it'd be kind of 2.5 minutes. It's kind of that, like, kind of, yeah, 1.5 times your recovery. And their idea being that, like, look, it's hot anyway. You are running at the heart rate, running slower, but you're still getting a benefit, say up in oxygen, you're still having to use less oxygen. Or if you're running, you're still, some of that blood is going somewhere else. So your body is still making adjustments, even if you are going slower and adapting to it, That's the first train, and that's the most popular. It would be like run easier until, so for the first 4 days, 5 days, it's you're running easier. Then your body starts like adapting again, and just based on your heart rate, you'll be going a bit faster as you get fitter. And then by the end of the camp, you're probably back to running at the pace that you were with the heart rate, and then you go back. That's why it takes 3 weeks there. You go back to sea level, you've got all these adaptations, and you haven't overcooked yourself. There is another school, and I have gone up and done this school of thought, is what Laurie was saying was, because it is, what's causing it, right? So one of my coaches, Lindsay Dunn, would have had this one where he's like, we know it's your heart and your lungs that essentially are the reason your heart rate is up. Like, you're just working harder internally. They can recover a lot quicker than your musculature. So let's just run at the same pace with the higher heart rate. We're stressing the body harder, but it recovers. So on our easy runs, rather than going off the heart rate or feel, he would say, just if you were doing, say, 5 minute per Ks, or we would do 7 minute miles or whatever, you run at that, or 6 minute Ks, just run at your normal pace, because your body is used to that. You will be working harder, your heart rate will be up, you'll be breathing a little bit heavier. We're not talking again going up 20 beats. We're talking like what Laurie was talking, you're up maybe 5 beats, 10 beats. If it went up 15, 20, you should like relax back down a bit more. But his thing was, we'll do the running, you'll do all your threshold stuff at the pace that you normally would down lower. But he wouldn't go too hard on the sessions. The workouts themselves would be a little bit easier, but then throughout the week is harder. And yeah, and the train of thought there was that, well, it's only your heart and lungs that are the reason you're not like sick, you know exactly why it is. It's like because of the heat. So your body, like, once it cools down after, will be fine. The heart and lungs that cause that are stressed, but they're not going to be, it's not like muscle tiredness or whatever. So we can push that a little bit more. To be fair, I have had a good few coaches. He's the only one that did it that way. It worked all right. So look, that's a long way of saying you probably get away with either, especially as long as you don't do the workouts hard. However, if you were doing like kind of set workouts that you want to keep those at a decent level, I would probably go a bit easier on I would trust the heart rate and go just that little bit slower, especially with heat. Like, there's a lot of that like central thing, a little bit with heat stroke and stuff. And especially where you are, Laurie, it'd be different if we were going for like a 3-week camp. We could like space a little bit, this will probably be done in a couple of days, you know, that way. Or well, maybe it's going a little bit longer. I don't know what you think of that now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, today was supposed to be an easy run, so I kept my pace to sort of what it would normally have been, and my heart rate was probably averaging about 6 or 8 beats higher than
Yeah.
it would on a regular day. But I did feel pretty tired when I got back. Like could used a nap, you know.
Yeah, because there is a lot of heat on the like on your head, and you are working harder, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would. I'd probably just go with the heart rate. I'll probably go, look, I'll go a little bit slower. The other thing you could do also is potentially go at the same pace, but maybe reduce the the time out there. You know, because there is just a bit of
Yeah.
like the actual heat getting to you. So like if you did, say if you normally do a 60-minute run,
Yep.
but if you did a 50-minute run at your normal pace, well, you're probably covering the distance that you would do if you slow down. Do you know what I mean? To a 60-minute run. So that's another thing
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could do.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep that
just
in
mess
mind for
around with it and
Thursday.
see. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then the other big one is just to see how you recover from it. You know, like obviously being tired here, but is there yeah, do you recover okay from it? And then if you do, then it could be like, oh well, you know what, I can actually do that as a strategy. Okay, so then the other questions I had about answer what people actually asked me. Sienna has them here. Let me see. Okay, so one was like, what exercise would you recommend for a grade 2 hamstring tendinopathy, not an acute hamstring tear? I would go to the hamstring rehab here. Hamstring tendinopathy is the hardest one to get right. If you have a seated hamstring curl in a gym where you're like pulling your legs back and then just letting one leg come back out and making it quite heavy, doing like 3x8 of that is really good. That's not in here, but that's one I'd have. I don't know if you've done these videos to try them. Just like if it's at that top, like sitting with hamstring tendinopathy, you don't get one of those like pipe things that or what are they called? Woggles or something like that? Something like they have in swimming, you know, they look like insulated pipe, but have that just on the hamstring. It'll reduce the amount of compression on the sit bone and the hamstring on that tendinopathy. I haven't watched this in a while. Let me see what I'm saying in this one. So we could just still do our normal hamstring rehabs just to like target the hamstring. And then with this, sometimes what we started doing was, oh yeah, that's just targeting the hamstring and just trying to get the pelvis moving a little bit better. So these are kind of targeting the hamstring. Again, and working on that pelvic position so that not moving. And then again, we're pulling in here, just working on that like kind of pelvic control. Just to adjust. And again, it's the same with the other one here. It's like a little bit of pelvis mobility. Sometimes it's like that top hamstring. I feel like working on the hamstring strength, working on the glute strength, getting the pelvis moving. Now saying that might, and then you can just do like a hamstring release and some hip mobility work. Saying that as well, my wife has that hamstring tendinopathy, and it was bad for a while. And as I said, seated hamstring curl, that kind of one in a gym, you know, where you're pulling back with weights or a cable is kind of easier, is the one that we find most effective. So she pulls that all the way back, hold it in for like 3 seconds, and then let the unaffected leg come off and then slowly go back with the other leg and trying to build, you know, do 3x8 of that, just building up if you're in a gym. If you have like a band, you can do it. Like, so the band would be attached maybe here and you're pulling your leg back in and back out, just as another one, just to tell you. Okay, and then the other question was, geez, Terry, I'm still rocking away. Psoas muscle strain, which is really strange to, and is radiant given hip pain. Very stiff also. Should I stop running? Laurie, do you want to answer that one? I'm getting that ready for a second.
If it's changing the way you run.
It's changing the way you run, number one. So do you stop running? If you're limping, because you might affect the other side. It might cause your hamstring or something else. So if it makes you limp or just changes the way you run, yeah, that's it.
If your level of pain is more than 3 out of 10, was it?
Yeah. If it's level out 3, and take that as if like it's a sharp pain. If you combine if it's a general ache, it's okay. But if it's a kind of a sharp pain or something like that, yeah, you got to stop.
And if it's getting worse as you progress.
Yeah, it's getting worse as you progress, or like say the next day when you wake up, it's getting worse. So what you want is that it doesn't change the way you run. It's an ache, like it's a 2 out of 10. It's you're aware of it, but it's not like super bad. And then yeah, it might be a bit sore after the run, but like by the next morning, it's not any worse than it was the morning before. If it's like way worse the next morning because of what you've done, that would all indicate to stop. The other time as well is if you were doing like a new rehab, I actually think sometimes it's better to stop to give the body that like recovery, that chance of recovery. With the psoas, you could do the hip rehab ones. The only hip rehab video I do would be the kind of massage ball release one. With that one, right, sometimes people don't feel it when we're doing, let me show you this. I think I need to update this video a little bit. Televideo, definitely. Yeah, I do as well, because that was one where I freaking forgot there was a stereo version on the it's only in playing in one ear, so I'll do that one again. Yeah, I didn't realize there was a stereo version. And one woman came back, she's like, there's no volume. And then I just realized, oh my God, it's only because it's coming in the left ear. It's fine. So this one, right? Oh, where am I going back? Okay, see the way the hockey ball is here? You roll around between your pelvis and your belly button. Sometimes you won't feel it. Put it like a book or something underneath here so it pushes more into the stomach. And then the other ones, if it is a psoas, I like these videos more. I like more the hip and groin, like it's in groin rehab, but I like it's kind of groin and hip flexors, like the attachments of the groin, like say, here's the adductor, but the hip flexor and psoas kind of go through here and attach here. So everything's really close together. So it's very, you kind of just want to like work both of those things. Just make sure there's no pain. But I'll just show you. I would do this. This is the 45-minute class. There's 10-minute videos in here more. So they're kind of like some of our hip openers, which will be good to do. Then you'll have a little bit of like adductor squeezes. Just make sure you don't go into pain. I know that's not hip flexor related. A little bit of mobility, adductor squeezes, like squat, so hip mobility stuff. I think I probably went past and then this is like, that's going to be like resisted ones, because that's like pushing, and by not letting that knee drop down, you're really working that hip flexor. There's another one maybe at the start of this as well. Then this one as well. We're lifting the hip knee as high as we can and not letting it drop. And that's going to work the hip flexor, that psoas isometrically. But just depending on how much time you can do those. But I find like trying, rather than isolating, because the like abdominal wall pain, groin pain, hip flexor issues are so connected that you're a little bit better off. Make sure you have no pain doing these and kind of working all three together. You'll get better results than I don't know why I put that one in, but look, we're trying to just make a class, get the arms working. Can't be all rehab. You need to get some aesthetics. Will work so much better. The other thing I would say then is, should you stop running? It's like, if you're telling me that like, oh, I don't have 45 minutes to do that class, that would tell me then I would prioritize that over the running just to get healthy. Great, that went well. And it's probably like a 10-minute class for us, but it's like 45 minutes have gone here, so you'll know how much time we saved you from not having to go through all that stuff. Do you have any other questions?
Just one question. When you were talking about the ball releases, it reminded me. So when I'm doing the hip, like the ball releases on the glute, and I'm looking for a spot that's sore, and I'll feel a spot that's sore, and then as I relax into it, it's not sore anymore. And I think it's only sore when I've got it tense. So I don't know if I should just,
No, but that's a good sign.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because a lot of times with this, like we say different things like trigger points, but a lot of it is like neurological. Like you're trying just to get they don't know exactly how it works, but a lot of it is like, so there could be ischemic pressure. It could be like all the blood flow and stuff, but a lot of times also it could be just like, okay, it's tense and we're on it. But even that conscious, like whatever is letting that go, you're hoping then, well, that then allows the muscle to kind of let go a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
'cause
I think
I think I
you're
find a
doing that
spot,
right.
and then I let go, and then I realize it's not hurting anymore. And I'm wondering, well, am I on a spot then? Maybe I'm
Yeah,
not on a
yeah, yeah.
spot.
You wonder if you weren't tensing. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're doing it right. And I might just hold on it for like, even if it wasn't sore, maybe like 20 seconds after, just to kind of not that I think it'll be sore again, but just to make sure, like it could be it's just relaxed and I can really get into it then, and then move on to another spot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
just in case, I probably wouldn't go hunting the next spot straight away. I might just like, especially if you're like us tight, and then it just lets go. And you think it's like, oh, is it just because I physically let go? But maybe just hold on it for a second or two and then move to the next spot. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Brilliant. Laurie, thanks. That's always a pleasure, to be fair.
Good to chat.
Great. Thank you. Okay,
All
see you
right.
guys. Take care.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Have a good night.